Hello and welcome back to Visions Recapped. Today I'm going to show you a 2022 American historical action thriller film called The Northman. This movie is heavily influenced by Norse mythology and follows the story of Amleth, a Viking prince who sets out on a quest to avenge the murder of his father. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. In 895 AD, King Orvandil returns to the island of Hravsni after his overseas conquests, reuniting with his wife, Queen Gudrun, and his heir, Prince Amleth. Prince Amleth spots his father's ships, so he rushes to his mother's chambers, but Queen Gudrun scolds him for entering without invitation. The so-called Raven King, or Orvandil War Raven, soon arrives at this castle and is welcomed by his wife and son. Gudrun worries about the king's brother, but Orvandil assures her that he'll join them soon. As spoils from the recent battle are presented for them, Orvandil gives Amleth the prince's necklace. Finally, Orvandil's half-brother, Fjolnir, arrives and is welcomed by the royal family. The royal jester, Emir, pokes fun at the queen. This angers Fjolnir, but Orvandil calms him because it's just a joke. After the festivities, Orvandil reveals his wound to his wife. Due to the near-death experience, Orvandil wants to prepare Amleth to become a successor. Gudrun thinks he's too young and comforts her husband by seducing him, but Orvandil refuses. Soon, Orvandil takes Amleth to the temple where he dips a golden band of blood. They then hid below the temple and crawl like wild animals. Emir begins a ritual and lays down the bowls before them. Following Orvandil, Amleth eats from the bowl. The two men ask questions about their legends, urging Amleth to gain strength and courage to avenge his father once he's defeated. Finally, Orvandil removes his bandage, revealing his large wound to the young Amleth. This makes him cry, and Hamer catches the tear, noting that it'll be Amleth's last tear of weakness. Amleth then approaches his father, who forces him to touch the wounds. Upon his touch, he gets a glimpse of Orvandil's heart, which extends into the tree of Yggdrasil. The two leaves the temple in the morning, but Orvandil is suddenly shot by arrows. He tells his son to run as he battles the men alone. He is, however, quickly defeated, as Orvandil kneels, the leader removes his helmet, revealing himself to be Fjolnir. Orvandil stresses that stealing his throne will make him king, so his reign will not last. With that, Fjolnir chops off his head and orders his men to Amleth's death. So the prince runs away and hides under a broken tree. But when he comes out, he immediately gets captured. Amleth draws a dagger and slices the man's nose to escape. Soon, Amleth reaches the village but finds Fjolnir's man killing the people. He hides under a cloak and witnesses his mother being taken away. Unable to fight, Amleth escapes. Just as the man with a sliced nose declares that the prince is dead, Amleth runs to the sea and swears vengeance for his father and to rescue his mother. Years later, Amleth is amongst Vikings who raised the land of Rus. Despite the arrows and spears sent at them, the Vikings climb the walls, kill the man. Amleth drops from the wall and attacks a man on horseback. He easily dodges arrows and even bites on a man's neck, fighting like a beast. After the battle, the women and children are gathered. The Viking elder commends, noting that they knew of his strength and courage when they found him as a child. As children are torn from their mothers, Amleth looks on with cold hatred. Soon, a house filled with children is burnt down. That evening, Amleth walks through the burnt house and finds a Ceres who knows his past. She grabs his hand and returns his last teardrop, reminding him who he shed it for. She instructs him to sail to Northern Ireland where he'll kill Fjolnir beside a burning lake. She adds that a vixen will lead him to the fated sword that'll enact his vengeance. When Amleth asks why she predicts his destiny, the seeress notes that his journey's end will begin the Maiden King's path. The next day, as the Vikings mark their captives, Amleth learns that some will be sent to Fjolnir's land in Iceland. Amleth asks why Fjolnir is in Iceland, to which another man recounts that Fjolnir fled there after losing his brother's kingdom in battle. Suddenly, a raven sweeps past Amleth. He takes it as a sign from his father. With a plan in mind, Amleth steals clothes from the villager's corpse and marks himself to be sent to Iceland. He then swims to catch up with a boat. There he sees a young woman named Olga who whispers a spell to comfort her companion. At night, as Amleth surveys the boat, Olga immediately recognizes him as the North and not from the land of Rus. She tells him that if he wants to be a sheep, he should hide his cunningness. However, Amleth shares that he intends to kill the shepherd. The boat is soon caught in the storm, and Amleth and Olga end up helping each other through the ordeal. As Amleth sleeps, he dreams about his father, mother, and Fjolnir. He then sees the sword in a volcano. Last, he sees a vision of Olga and Yggdrasil. Soon as they walk to Fjolnir's farm, Olga asks why Amleth disguised as a servant. He reveals that Fjolnir stole his father, mother, and kingdom, so he intends to kill him. Olga comments that Amleth has the strength to break their enemies' bones, while she has the strength to break their minds. At their farm, Fjolnir's young son Gunnar complains about doing servants' work. Fjolnir tells him that they cannot predict their fate since they can also become servants. By helping their work, they prepare themselves for a harsher fate while assuring the servants that they're strong. Fjolnir then watches his eldest son, Thorir, yelling in anger before being defeated in training. The new servants are then lined up before Fjolnir and his family. Amleth looks on as he sees his father's killer. On hearing that they've just been sold off again, Amleth drags his chains down, knocking down the other servants to show his strength. This catches Fjolnir's interests, and he decides to keep him. As they choose other servants to keep, Fjolnir also finds Olga interesting, so he tells his men to keep her. At night, Amleth sneaks out and attempts to steal a knife. However, he stops when a man throws out a vixen which has killed a chicken. Amleth works around the farm the next day when he spots men bringing tapestries into Fjolnir's house. Later, he forcefully takes a spot of one of the men to enter inside. He follows the humming voice and finally spots his mother brushing Fjolnir's hair. Later, Olga asks him if he found what he lost. Amleth says he did, but it was a nightmare. Suddenly, men call Olga and remind her to stay close to Fjolnir. Olga asks Amleth to look for her if she's lost before she gets taken away. That evening, Amleth sneaks out again to follow the vixen. The vixen leads him to a cave where Hewitch waits for him. The Hewitch reveals him Hymir's severed head who Fjolnir murdered. Amleth swears to avenge Hymir as well. The Hewitch cuts a piece of Hymir's hair and tosses it into the flames. After that, Hewitch chants a spell which enables Amleth to hear Hymir's voice in his head. Hymir tells him about the sword that can never be broken or bent. The sword's name is Draugr, the Undead. The Hewitch then warns him about the evilness of the sword and that someday Amleth must choose between kindness for his skin or hate for his enemy. Amleth then climbs over the mound and digs his way inside the grave of the current owner of the sword. There he finds the skeletal remains of the owner and he attempts to take the sword from it. However, the undead mound dweller wakes up. He towers over Amleth and swings the sword, so Amleth uses the discarded shields and swords around him to fight back. Amleth notices that the mound dweller evades the light coming from the hole he enters from, so Amleth swings an old scythe and forces the dweller into the light. The mound dweller freezes once under the light, and Amleth uses this opportunity to take the sword. As Amleth returns to the farm, he hears Fjolnir's plan about attacking neighboring farms. He then watches Fjolnir to enter a barn where Olga was sleeping and wake her up. Olga distracts him by presenting the blood between her legs and wipes it on his face. This angers Fjolnir as he decides to leave. The next day, Olga drops her bread while Amleth passes by, creating an opportunity for them to talk. She informs him that they'll be taken to another chieftain's feast. Amleth tells Olga about the sword and his plan to find the burning lake before killing Fjolnir. Olga asks what will happen to his mother Gudrun, but Amleth is sure that his vengeance will definitely please her. He also informs Olga of his intention to protect his half-brother Gunnar. Later at the feast, there's a vicious game and Amleth and his team of servants were constantly losing. With the willingness to win, Gunnar takes the bale but ends up being hit. Amleth kills the man who tries to harm Gunnar and finally wins the game, which earns him the title of the leaders of the servants. Thorir also provides him a choice for a woman including Olga, as Fjolnir is no longer interested in her. As the servants enjoy their festivities, Olga and Amleth have their intimate time in the woods. Olga then chants a spell to empower the sword and to help Amleth's vengeance. Amleth then kisses her and starts his reign of terror on the farm. One morning, Thorir finds the carved bodies of his men positioned like horse in the barn. He thinks that the servants are revolting, but Fjolnir calms him down. They think that the Christian servants are at fault, but their priestess, Ashildr, checks the body and informs that the wounds were made from an unholy blade. Thinking it's the work of gods, Ashildr suggests a sacrifice. That evening, Ashildr prepares a servant girl to be sacrificed. Suddenly, the dogs howl in a strange manner and kills its owner. It turns out Amleth howls with a vixen, forcing Fjolnir to kill his mad dogs. As the rest of the men search for the origin of the howling, Amleth rescues the servant girl. When Fjolnir returns to the sacrificial area, he finds Ashildr bound while her helper bleeds above her. As they free Ashildr, Gudrun suggests that the god chose their sacrifice. The next day, the servants are given a weapon to protect the land despite Thorir's protests. At nightfall, Olga adds some poisonous mushrooms into the stew and then serves it to the men. The warriors become delusional and harm themselves. Amleth and Olga enter Fjolnir's house amidst the chaos. There, Amleth finds his father's ring. He gets caught by Gudrun, and he reveals his identity as her son. Amleth learns the truth that Gudrun never loved his father. She tells Amleth that he was convinced because Orvandil forced himself upon her. She stays with Fjolnir because he loves her, and Gunnar was a child made from love and not force. This angers Amleth. He becomes more furious when he learns that Gudrun was the one who gave the idea of killing her husband and her son to Fjolnir. Then Gudrun proceeds to seduce Amleth to get hold of his sword, but Amleth pulls away. Enraged, Amleth kills Thorir and steals his heart. Gudrun reveals Amleth's true identity to Fjolnir and calls for him to kill him. Fjolnir threatens to kill Olga, but Amleth offers to trade Olga's life for Thorir's heart. After a severe beating, Amleth is released from his restraints by a flock of ravens. Olga rescues Amleth and the two escape by boat. Amleth has a vision and discovers that Olga is pregnant with twins, one of whom will become the Maiden King prophesied by the series. Fearing that his children will never be safe, Amleth decides to kill his uncle and jumps overboard despite Olga's pleas. Back at the farm, Amleth frees the slaves and kills most of Fjolnir's men. While searching for Fjolnir, Amleth is attacked by his mother and drives a drugger through her heart. Gunnar attacks Amleth, stabbing him repeatedly in the back before Amleth kills him. Fjolnir, discovering his wife and son dead, tells Amleth to meet him at the gates of Hell, the crater of the volcano Hekla, to resolve the conflict via Holmgang. At the volcano, Amleth and Fjolnir engaged in a fierce sword fight. Fjolnir is decapitated, and Amleth is fatally wounded. As Amleth lies dying, he has a future vision of Olga embracing their twin children before a Valkyrie appears to carry him through the gates of Valhalla. That is all about this movie. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for more series recaps like this. Thanks for watching.